here's a little bit of an update on the bale grazing program that we started here just about Christmas time, so about 6 weeks or so ago. We have never done this before, and this was our first year trying this, seeing if we liked it or not. And so far, the weather's been pretty mild up till this week, and these cows have been cleaning up their hay awfully good. What they do leave behind might be about 10% or so. I mean, and it does have something to do with the quality of hay that you feed. If you're feeding poorer hay, they're going to leave more of it, or they're going to go out in the pasture and just graze instead, depending on the temperature, which can be a good thing if that's what you want them to go do, or if there's something out there to graze. These are all pretty much all short-term cows, and we're really trying to keep the condition good on them going into calving here in a couple months. So one thing we were looking into on this before we started, it seems like everybody that bale grazes prefers to put all their bales out and then use electric fence to give the cows, another few days worth of hay, just moving the electric wire. And we've never tried that. What we've been doing is just bringing out a gooseneck load of hay, enough for about 4 days. And it generally, in this warm weather, we've been working it out to about 20 cows per bale. And days like this, when it's colder, we've been trying to go about 15 cows per bale. And that's been a pretty good ratio so far. There seems to be enough space, yet enough competition that they are working at eating what's there and not leaving, not getting too picky about what they leave behind. And they seem very satisfied. They don't just come running when we need to put hay out. Now that they're not looking for a tractor every day, they go out and graze when it's decent. They come back in and eat when they need it. It's been a really difficult finding anything really negative to say about this. There is, like I say, they do leave about 10%, which to some folks, if you're buying hay, that's too much, maybe. For us, we're trying to feed this where we have some poorer ground and hoping to see some improvements from fertilization and having some more organic matter on the ground and some seed there to help jumpstart some of this poorer soil. Be interesting to see what happens with that. But from a financial standpoint, which is, I think, if you're in ranching, you got to look at things primarily from a financial standpoint so that you can make sure you're here the next year to try it again. The fuel savings alone, we've figured out to be about 80% less than coming out and feeding every day with a tractor and a processor. So not only is the fuel cost less, but the hours on the tractor and the implements are down, at least 2/3, 3/4 or so. We're not putting those really high horsepower hours on that tractor running a bale processor, which is working those tractors pretty hard. And reflecting to the hours that we're putting on that equipment, we were putting on almost 3 times as many hours, or as many hours feeding cattle in the wintertime. We were putting on more hours in the wintertime feeding cattle than we were putting up the year's worth of hay in the hayfield, which is pretty high. That's a lot of hours on a tractor just to get your hay unrolled. And I realize you can do it with a bale bed, you can do it a lot of different ways, but with the amount of cows that we're feeding, that would it would be not very easily done with a bale bed when you need to be feeding 15 to 17 bales just to one bunch of cows at certain times of the winter and trying to make sure they all get some. But this is just kind of our observations and what we've been seeing so far. We've been liking it, and would be curious to know if any of you are doing the same thing, what you're seeing. One big advantage to where we're at in this climate here is that with this system, you know, feeding out only 4 days worth of hay, as you can move the cows where you want them to be. For example, like today or last night, we had a bunch of cold air come in, and we're able to feed these cows this morning in an area where they can just go over the hill here and get out of the wind. And if all of your hay is out in one field with an electric wire, you're forced to feed there. You're forced to make those cows go there every day to feed, which might be fine, but with these older cows, it's a little bit harder on them to make them stand out in that wind all day when it's, you know, wind chills 30 below. You're able to more easily adapt to your weather situations doing it this way. And if you do have an issue with water, I mean, as all of you know, in the cold regions, you know, water isn't always a easy thing to keep open, and you can move to another tank or another pasture and just start bale grazing there. If your water system goes down, you're not stuck where the hay is because you didn't put all the hay in one spot. So just some observations from our end and just sharing what we're seeing so far.